Hi everyone, my name is Monaco Tuifo and I'll be presenting on Karl Marx. Marx was born May 5th, 1818 in Trier, Germany. He was the son of Jewish parents and his father was a well-known lawyer. For social and business reasons, Karl's father changed his last name from Levy to Marx. This is after he began to slowly break away from Jewish community. In his childhood, he was said that he was found to be highly intelligent, committed to learning, and very independent. When he was 17, he pursued a college career studying law at the University of Bonn. He spent most of his time with his friends, writing poetry, shopping, and fighting. Continuing on with his education, Karl's father did not like the influence that his college had on him and often insisted that he transfer to the University of Berlin. This was one of the most important decisions of his life, and the University of Berlin became critical to Karl's future. Berlin uh, attracted him with its big city and busy streets. It was a dream for radios and other intellects. Being from a small town with many restrictions, this new city had huge effects on him. It changed his perspective and encouraged his intelligence and curious and creative personality to take control. Marx's Hegelian roots. Uh, Hegel, Hegel's, Hegel argued the Kant's categories that thought are actually categories of being. Um, Hegelian's philosophy, uh, reality is referred to absolute thought, mind, spirit, or idea. Um, Absolute idealism, Hegel's philosophy holds that the only way mind can recognize is as continuously developing consciousness. According to Hegel, the ongoing dialect represents the actual structure of reality, the unfolding thought of cosmic geist. Hegel is always developing according to the dialectical process. Hegel also was a grand systematizer. Some would say the grand systematizer. He thought of the history as unfolding of absolute idea of God. The young um, Marx was influenced by Hegel, from whom he delivered through critical concepts of alienation and notion, historical evolution as an ongoing struggle. Marx combined Hegel's dialectical view of history with Feuerbach's concepts of materialist zeitgeist, the spirit of the age, to produce historical materialism. The view of history is ongoing results on a dialectical process that consists on an interaction between an original condition thesis and a contrary condition and antithesis to produce a new condition containing elements of the thesis and antithesis synthesis. Each synthesis becomes the thesis for a new dialectical cycle driven by the constant tension between two classes, the exploiters and the exploited. Moving on to the next slide, it's titled Dialectical Materialism. Marx took an idea from Hegel that there is only one uniform reality and that history is an evolutionary cycle governed by an internal dialectical process. The five epoch of history. The first one is primitive, communal. The second one is slave. Third one, feudal. And then the fourth one is capitalist. And then the last last one is socialist, communist. According to Marx, ideas, values, and thinking itself are shaped by materials, conditions, and social relations. Moving on to the next slide, it's titled Co-option and Class Struggles. Marx and Engels were the first philosophers to recognize the plight of women in modern society. Marx says that the different working classes are co-opted. Co-opted means that when you are tricked, seduced, or somehow convinced to further interests that are to your ultimate disadvantage and think that you do so willingly. Marx and Engels mentioned in the Communist um, Manifesto how real change will come only when the exploited identify with one another and not with their ethnicity, religion, gender, or age. Throughout the chapter, I found that Carl's some of the main points in this chapter was Carl's three components. Marx made up his own ideas, and he stated that it is most important. And most important is the materials substructure, which consists of three components. The first one is the means of production, natural resources. The second one is the forces of production, factories, equipments, technology, and knowledge. And then the last one is the relationships of production, which constitute a complex system that shapes everything else. And there is a quote that I also put on this slide, and it says that the material subculture produces ideas and institutions compatible with it. These compromise the culture's superstructure and include art, science, philosophy, religion, and government. Moving on to the next slide, it's titled Capitalism. Marx had a strong opinion on capitalism based on what he observed in his socialistic economy. In his view, the capitalist subculture contains a fundamental contradiction and tension between the owner's desire to keep wages low while prices fluctuate according to the law of supply and demand. Capitalism, according to Marx, is alienation which occurs when workers no longer feel one with a product of his or her labor. Moving on to the next slide, bourgeoisie and proletariat. Under capitalism, the two struggling classes are proletariats and bourgeoisies. The bourgeoisies are those who own the process and production, but do not actually produce anything themselves. But they overlook the financial perspective, and proletariats are those who produce things themselves but do not own or have in power over their means of production. And that's the end of my presentation. And I have two questions for you guys to reply to on the form. The first question is based on the reading. How do you know when you are being co-opted, and what can you do to combat it? And then the second question is, how does God call us to make change?